I just wanted to share what it's like living alone post-divorce. Just to recap, I was with my ex for about 8 years and we lived together for about 7 of those years. This has been my first time ever living alone, and it's been 11 months. We moved from the West Coast and lived together for around 6 months before I had to leave. I lived with my best friend for about 3 weeks until I was able to find a really secure apartment. Now I've lived in this apartment for about 10 months. I felt honestly excited, but also exhausted. I had just furnished a whole apartment with my ex, and we were finally settling into a 2-bed, 2-bath. Now it was daunting to know that I had to move into another place and furnish it all again. So with limited finances, because I didn't have a partner to split rent with, and honestly with just low energy, I picked a studio. That's about all I had the energy to do. I got a studio with a little bit of the thought of, well, if I go back, then I don't want to have furnished a full, like 1-bedroom apartment. So happy I didn't go back. One important saying that I kept in my mind while I was putting together my new apartment was that Rome wasn't built in a day. It's something my boss kept telling me also, and it really helped. Finances were limited, the legal process was expensive. It took me about 6 months to fully furnish my place and have it be as comfortable and look like what it does today. I'm really in love with my space, and I wouldn't have picked anywhere else to live, honestly. And I just love the studio. It makes me feel so safe. I know every nook and cranny. Also, PTSD was really high when I moved into my new apartment, so there was a lot of hypervigilance going on, a lot of scanning under my bed and checking the door to make sure the door was locked, and always on edge. And I think that having a studio made me feel like my space was more manageable and cozier and safer. So I would highly recommend that for anyone who has PTSD. I just want to let you know how much peace I felt the second I moved into my apartment. Even though I do have residual, PTSD symptoms that came up with hypervigilance, I have never experienced the level of peace I have in my own place. I have never been so happy in my whole life. I just want to let you know that living alone, it's not scary. Aside from the PTSD that will sometimes come up, living alone has been the most fulfilling and peaceful, and allowing yourself to get to know yourself on such a deep level. You can cry as much as you want. No one's there to hear you or judge you. You can decorate your space however you want without anyone else's input. It's been such an amazing experience so far. So when I got to my best friend's house and stayed there for 3 weeks, he had a spare bedroom that I stayed in, but I didn't have that much money, but I did buy things that made the space feel a little bit more comforting. So at Trader Joe's, this is the plant I got, and I don't know if he's doing well, but this was very comforting, especially adding a feminine touch to a bedroom that I was staying in. I had my stuffed animal from when I was 6 years old, and my twin has a matching stuffed animal, and that was honestly really comforting. One of the things I was gifted from my friend who knew about the situation was freedom is something you take, which helped light the candles that I was buying to make. It was snowing at the time in winter, and so this really made the space feel way more cozy too. And a lot of throw pillows and heated blankets, and those things, because of the lack of dopamine from leaving my partner of 10 years, those were just some things that I found really comforting to get me through, especially because it was wintertime and snowing. I also just want to let you all know that I had a lot of help also from my community. So behind me is my record player, which I was able to get from my favorite coworker. He's a part-time musician, but he got me the record player, and then my dad sent me speakers from when I was a kid. When I visited him on the West Coast this summer, he sent me home with 20 records, and you can see one of the Bob Dylan records up there. So when I eat dinner alone, which I do a lot, I'm able to put on the records and think about him and feel closer to him. So even though one huge relationship dissolved, my marriage dissolved, it makes way for all these other beautiful friendships and connections that you make that you never would have thought that you could get so close to people, and it's a really beautiful thing. My place is furnished and beautiful, and it's not lost on me how hard it is to make every purchase after you are going through a separation or a divorce. Like every purchase that you make, it feels like you're stepping further and further away from familiarity and into your own, and further away from the relationship that you had known. And it feels painful, and sometimes it feels like you're going through sand. And I just want to let you know that that's a really temporary feeling. I would have never changed the decision that I made to leave, and I'm the happiest I've been. And hopefully, if you're going through the same situation, or if you're considering leaving, I just want to let you know how good it gets, and how peaceful it gets, and what a beautiful life you can have beyond something that feels so grim right now. And I believe in you, and I just want to send all my love to all of you who are going through a hard time. I was really intentional about decorating my space. I wanted it to be feminine. My ex hated gold, so the first purchases I ever made was a gold lamp and a gold picture frame, and I incorporated gold into my apartment. I wanted a lot of calming color, so a lot of blues and greens, which have been excellent for my nervous system. And I wanted things to look really feminine and woodsy, outdoorsy. I wanted to make sure I brought the outside in. Please stay tuned for my apartment tour, and I look forward to hearing what you all think.